Welcome to Senior Flicks again, and we've got an excellent Marvel Tales with Lillian Cornellius Warkentin. I know some of her story, and I can't wait to hear it, even though I've heard it before, some of it. So we're going to talk to Lillian today. Lillian is going to share a lot of exciting things. She's got a carjacking experience. She's got missions experience as a married woman, as a single woman. We're going to hear all about it. So Lillian, let me just start by saying welcome. And I want you to start by telling us a little bit about yourself. And why don't you start back, let's say all the way back in 1955.
Okay, in 1955, my first husband, Bill Cornelius, and I went to Kenya as missionaries. We were so excited. We didn't know much about it. We hardly knew where it was. We looked it up on the map and found that the equator ran through it. And we were on our way. We took a flight to Paris, then on to Nairobi.
Wow.
And after we hit Nairobi, we were picked up the next day by our senior missionary, Jacqueline.
Okay.
And then we were ready for about a 6-hour drive
Wow.
up to the Kisii Hills with ourselves and our young baby. We went with Jim Cornelius,
Okay.
the little baby who was 7 months at the time.
Wow.
And if you want to know more about our kids, we had 3 more during the next 10 years.
Wow. And they were born in Africa?
They were all born in Africa, Murray, Brian, and finally a little girl,
Wow.
Brenda.
Wow. Wow. So what was the mission call that you were going to right off that? Tell me about that.
We were going to Itibo
Okay.
Mission. That's spelled I-T-I-B-O.
Okay.
And said Itibo Mission.
Okay.
It had 2 houses on the mission station.
Right.
Plus a big school, a primary school, and an intermediate school.
Wow.
And that's where we went.
Okay.
And we were hosted by Jack and Edna Lynn.
Right.
Who were wonderful, experienced missionaries, and they sort of helped us settle in.
Wow. Wow.
So what my husband did, Bill
Yes.
did,
Yes.
he was kind of like a church planter because they were just getting churches started. I think there were about 23 in that area at
Wow.
that time.
Yes.
Now there are thousands.
Wow.
But at that time, there were very few churches and they wanted to plant more. So that was his job.
Okay.
What I did, I sort of helped teach in the school, the intermediate school, and I also did the dispensary, although I'm not a nurse.
Okay.
I had taken St. John's Ambulance Brigade, and I knew how to do a bit of bandaging, so
Right.
I did what I could.
Nice.
So that's what we did for 10 years.
10 years. Wow.
And after that 10 years, we moved to Nairobi because Bill was made the field director for the whole mission, which
Oh, wow.
included Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya.
So different countries under Nairobi. Wow. The different countries
Yes,
came under
yeah,
Nairobi. That's
yeah.
interesting.
They were called East Africa, and they
Okay.
all worked together.
Okay.
So we were missionaries together, all of us.
Wow. How many years were you the missions director there in Nairobi? How long were you the national?
That was about 10 years.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what? Tell me what happened next.
Well, could I tell you something that happened before the next?
Please do. Yes. Tell me
Okay.
whatever you'd like to tell me.
I think I'd like to tell you that my second husband, Peter,
Okay.
arrived as one of the volunteers. We had a lot of volunteers. For instance, we had 22 school teachers.
Okay.
But Peter arrived after he had finished his military career.
Okay.
He was in the Air Force, and he was Captain
Right.
Warkentin.
Okay.
And Captain Peter Warkentin.
Yes.
And so he was very proud of that. And he came out to help my first husband
Yes.
with a lot of the administrative jobs, like a fleet of cars to look after and
Okay.
the immigration to look after.
Wow.
And a lot of those things.
Yes.
So then his wife came out a year later and she did the guest house. So we became good friends at that moment.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's how long did they serve with you at that time?
I think it was about 2 years. We went back to Canada before they did,
Okay.
and then they had to go back because Evelyn's mother was very ill.
Okay. Okay. So you went back. What did you go back to do when you came back to Canada? What was your
Well,
role going to be?
Bill's job really was to go about the churches and to tell about missions and several other things. He was assisting Carmen Lynn, who was
Okay.
our director at that time.
Okay.
And then in 1980, that's when he was elected as missions director for the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada.
Wow. So he moved from Nairobi back to Ontario, to Canada, Toronto, I mean.
Yeah, we had already moved and he was already itinerating in the churches.
Okay.
So this happened then.
Okay.
So that changed our lives considerably.
Yes, yes.
Our children were thinking of going to boarding school. That got changed.
Wow.
But anyway, it was an exciting and wonderful time because Peter was able to travel to many different places and
Yes.
get new missions endeavors started, like
Right.
West Africa, Israel,
Right.
and many different things
Right.
happened during that time.
Okay, interesting.
Except that after 12 years, he
Yes.
had a sudden brain aneurysm.
Oh, that was
And
Bill.
That was Bill.
Right,
that was my
right.
first husband.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
not Peter.
Right,
My
okay.
first husband had a brain aneurysm.
Okay.
And, that was very, very upsetting for all of us because
Yes.
it was totally unexpected.
And did he pass away suddenly at that time?
He passed away after 8 days,
8
but
days.
he never got back to consciousness at all.
Oh, that's so tough, isn't it?
It was very, very tough, not just for us, but for the whole missions department, and also for the officers, for the
Yes.
whole of the PAOC.
I remember that, and being a prayer focus for the nation. Absolutely. Oh boy. And so your husband dies unexpectedly, suddenly, and so that's the end of your ministry career right there, I presume.
Not quite, not quite.
No, there's another chapter. I want to hear about
There's
that. Tell me
always
about.
more chapters.
Tell me.
But I stayed on for another 4 years
Okay.
because I was interested in missionary kids and I did some work along that line.
Okay.
But I was always wanting to get back to Kenya. So I had my people in Kenya working for me,
Right.
like Helen McMinn and others.
Sure.
And so after 4 years in 1996, I went back to Kenya.
Okay. Tell me what you did at that time. You went back. What was the role?
Well, I went back to work with Helen McMinn, who is
Okay.
an amazing lady.
Okay.
And she was running a program called District Bible Training,
Okay.
which was for pastors who had not been trained or had been trained very little, or any church leaders that wanted training.
Okay.
So this was a wonderful program. It had some books called Theological Education by Extension.
Okay.
There were 5 of them. The students had to pay fees. I think it was $300 for a course.
Wow.
So my job was to help recruit students for this program.
Okay.
Now, I have to tell you that I started out at Nyangori, the main station. Then they moved me to Nairobi,
Okay.
to the campus of Pan-Africa Christian College, which
Yes.
is now a university.
University. That's right.
So that's where I was living.
Okay.
And that's where I was doing the ministry. So my job was to go around to the churches, try and talk to the pastors, talk to the people, and just try and get them to sign up for district Bible training, which was a wonderful type of training. And Helen was a genius at arranging all the logistics for the program.
Now, did you find the pastors and the churches receptive? Were they very open to that at that time?
They were.
They were wonderful.
Yeah.
Isn't that a great ministry opportunity for them to be trained? They're already serving their churches, and yet you're giving them the tools they need to serve better, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and the pastors were the ones who tried to get their leaders to join up.
Yes.
And they were the ones responsible for collecting the fees, which they had to bring to me in the office I had at PAC.
Okay.
And they brought the fees. Once they had 10 students, they could start the class.
Wow.
And Helen usually tried to arrange for a teacher. Now, she was very strict. She wouldn't let anybody teach unless they had a diploma
Okay.
in theology.
Okay.
So those were rather rare in those days, and sometimes that was a bit of a problem. But, the students absolutely loved these courses. I got to invigilate exams.
Wow.
And then when they had done 6 courses,
Yes.
then they had a big celebration. And sometimes they would wear their own special T-shirts, or they would get some kind of a uniform, and,
Nice.
and they would beat the drums, and they would come in, and they would have chicken.
A real
It was
cultural experience.
It was a big deal
Yes.
when they got their diploma.
Oh.
So that's why I enjoyed doing that job.
That would be very gratifying, wouldn't it, to see that kind of, and see them come to fruition, finish off that. That's wonderful. So I understand that you had some sort of an episode in a car at some point, and I think you know where I'm going. Tell us the story
I
of your
do.
carjacking. I'm all ears. I want to hear this one.
Okay. So one of these days, I was going out. It was a Sunday morning, and I went and I got my little car. I had a little red Hyundai, which
Okay.
I really loved that car, and I
Okay.
liked it. It was a nice little car.
Yes.
And I had arranged to meet the pastor of a certain church. I arranged to meet him at a roundabout. We had actually made a little map, and there were 2 roundabouts. But unfortunately, being me, I mixed up the roundabouts.
Okay.
And went to the wrong roundabout. But in those days, we didn't have cell phones. So I was stuck in this car, wondering, where is he? Why hasn't he come? He always comes on time. I don't know what to do now. And I tried to keep it all locked up so that, I wasn't in danger. But in the end, I rolled down the window and I let 3 people come and ask me what was wrong. And I tried to explain. The first thing I knew, one of the guys had his hand on the keys. I had my hands on the keys because I was going to try to drive away or whatever. And he put his hands on the keys and I said, "You're not getting these keys." However, he was stronger than I was. So he got the keys. He pushed me over to the passenger side. The girl and the other guy got in the back seat, and so we took off at great speed. No idea where I was going.
Wow.
So that was pretty scary. But I don't think I quite lost my head because I was thinking, now, how do I get out of this? What do I do?
Right.
So I just sort of stayed quiet for a while.
Okay.
And we drove along, and after a while we came to a place that was sort of like a big field, a huge field. I had no idea where it was.
Right.
But then I saw some people close by, and oh, by the way, I had lost my shoe in the process.
Oh, boy.
Going from the front seat to the back seat.
Okay.
They want to be in the back seat. Yeah. I lost my shoe. Oh. So then I saw these people, and I said, "Take me over there where those people are and just drop me off there. That'd be good, But they just ignored me and kept driving and kept driving. However, I think I planted a seed that I wanted out of the car.
Yes.
And so they kept driving and driving until there was nobody in the field that could be seen. And then the driver stopped the car, threw open one of the doors, the back door, I guess, I was in the back. And he said, "Get out." So I got out.
Yes.
And now I was standing in the middle of the field.
And you had no idea where you were?
I had no idea where I
boy.
was. There were no markers. There was nothing to tell me where I was. But one thing I did know, I was alone. I wasn't super scared. I was more relieved that I was away from those guys.
Right.
So I was standing there and I was remembering, Jesus said, "Lo, I will be with you always." And I could feel the presence. I could feel that there was prayer going up for me somewhere. And then I just stood there and I didn't know what to do. And suddenly I saw an angel.
Wow.
Now, not an angel with white clothes and wings.
Okay.
But this angel was in the form of an old man.
Okay.
Pushing a bike. Now, he was my angel.
Yes.
Because I don't know where he came from. I didn't see him at all when I first got, but suddenly he just appeared, this old man with a bike.
Wow.
So then we got together somehow. I explained to him what happened, and he said, "We go to the police." I said, "Okay, let's go to the police. Where is it?" He says, "Not far." When Kenyans say not far, it could mean anything. It could mean around the corner.
Yes.
Or it could mean 5 miles down the road.
It's all relative, isn't it?
I had no idea how far this police station was.
Right.
But anyway, I had a problem with my feet because it was really kind of stubbly ground.
And you had no shoe, one of your shoes.
I had one shoe, but I didn't have the other shoe, and they refused to give it back to me.
Oh, boy.
I kept asking them, but I never got it back. Because I told them I couldn't walk without my shoes. Maybe that's why they wouldn't give it to me. So anyway, I told him, "I can't walk on this ground." And he said, "Never mind." He didn't call me dear. He was a Mazay.
Yes.
I'm a mama.
Yeah.
So he said, "Never mind, Mama. I'll give you my flip-flops." So he took off his flip-flops, and he walked barefoot.
Wow.
And we started out. We went out, I don't know how far we went, actually. We went maybe maybe 5-10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And then suddenly, a whole car full of angels came from behind us.
Really?
It was a man and a wife and some kids in a 4x4. So they wondered, what's this old man and this white woman doing here?
Yes.
So they stopped to see. And of course, they were very kind, and they took me in the car, and they drove me the rest of the way
Wow.
to the police station.
Wow. Did you say the old man was a Maasai? He was a Maasai man? Is that what you said or no?
No, a Mazee. Mazee, M-Z-E-E,
okay.
means old man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
My
you.
husband was called Mazee, too.
Okay.
Any old man is called a Mazee.
I often get called that to this day, so that's
Do you?
interesting. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Okay, so tell me, now, so you lost your car forever?
Well, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I
You
had
reported it to the police?
I had no idea. I saw it going by, but then we went to the police station.
Right.
So then there was this big high counter and these official-looking policemen there
Yes.
wanting to know what it was all about. I think it had actually been reported,
Okay.
but they had an idea. So they asked me a few questions like, were there any weapons? No, there weren't any weapons and whatnot. And
Just the shoe. The only weapon was the shoe you
was
left
a shoe.
behind.
Yes, but I couldn't do anything with that shoe.
No.
So,
No.
so anyway, after I had finished the major explanation to those policemen behind the desk,
Yes.
there was another man there, and I think he was more senior. Maybe he came out of an office. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
So I talked to him a little bit, and then I said to him, could you tell me your name, sir? Because I might want to call you later on and find out if you've made any progress. So he said, my name is Onyeki. So then I immediately said, I know that name. That's a Kisi name. And I used to live in Kisi. And then he said, when I saw that name Cornelius, I thought something was familiar. And so he said, I went to Itibo. Remember that word?
Yeah, your
Itibo?
missions, yes.
My station.
Yes.
I went there as a child. Now, that would have been about 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, I don't know.
Wow.
He was a child, and now he's a policeman.
Wow.
So he remembered, and he said, my father's land was right adjacent to Itibo Mission, right beside Itibo Mission. And then he also told me something I didn't know. He said, your husband, Bill Cornelius,
Yes.
sent or arranged for my father to go to teacher training college at another mission station. And so that's what he remembered about our family.
Wow.
He was clued into the whole picture
Yes.
at that time.
Yes, yes.
So we sort of became buddies.
Yes.
And I was so glad that I knew about that because I figured now he'll work hard.
That's right.
I'm mama.
That's right.
So he'll work hard and try and get that car back.
Okay.
So anyway, we couldn't talk long because the guy on the 4x4 was waiting for us.
Okay.
They took us back to the station.
Okay.
When we got to the station, everybody came running. What happened? Did they molest you?
Yeah.
What did they do?
Yes.
You know, they wanted to know everything.
Yes.
They took me into one of the houses and bandaged up my leg a little bit, which had been scraped a bit. And then we went into my house, and our immediate boss, Ken Birch,
Yes.
actually his name,
Yes.
he came up to sort of commiserate with me and to talk about it. So we were talking a bit, and then he said, how would you like to call Murray in Zimbabwe? Murray was in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
That was down in South Africa.
Okay.
We were in East Africa. So somehow or other they managed to get him on the phone. And he said, oh, sorry, Mom, that's too bad. You know how sons talk,
Yes,
matter of fact.
That's right.
Anyway, and then he said something that was very interesting. He said, why don't you get a driver? I would love to have a driver myself, you know, sit in the back seat and read the newspaper and have somebody drive me.
Yes.
Think about getting a driver. So that put a thought in our minds, and we discussed it a bit. And Ken said, well, maybe we could see if we could arrange that.
Wow.
But at this point, we didn't have the car yet.
Right.
So I don't know exactly what I did the rest of the day. I don't even remember where I slept or if I slept or whether I ate or I didn't eat. But anyway, about 11 o'clock, there was a phone call.
That same night.
That same night.
Wow.
there was a phone call. It was from my neighbor, Anne, because we shared a phone. We had a phone between the two of us.
Okay.
So she said, praise God, the car is found.
Wow.
The car is found. And I'm talking to the police right now.
Huh.
So she carried on with her talking with the police. And then the policeman said to her, now I want to talk to my grandmother.
Oh, isn't
And
that something?
I thought that was so sweet that he
Yes.
would call me his grandmother.
Yes.
And because this was 11 o'clock and we had had the incident about 11 or 12 at noon hour, I think he worked overtime to get that car. Because
Yes.
sometimes they don't bother or they don't get it right away. But he got it and he phoned, and I told him, thank you so much, and we'll get the car tomorrow. He said, you can come and pick up the car tomorrow,
Yes.
which is what we did.
Wow. Wow, what a story. There are so many stories. I bet if we took time today, you could just share countless things that have taken place. I want to come to ask one more question, because you were there for how many years when you went back on your own?
Well, we had been 22 years, Bill and I, together.
Yes.
And then there was 12 years when Peter was the
Toronto.
missions director.
Okay, yes.
Then 4 years after that, and then I went back on my own in 1996.
Okay.
To work with Helen.
Yes.
In district Bible training.
Yes.
And now I was living in a different place on the campus of the college.
Right.
And this is when this whole thing happened.
Yes. So
Yeah.
how soon after that did you come back to Canada to stay?
Oh. Well, I haven't finished the story yet.
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry. I was going to maybe ask the question you're going to answer, but you go for it.
Well, I was just going to say that then there was this thought that I get a driver.
Yes.
So now I had the car back.
Okay.
All I needed was a driver.
Right.
And there was no need for me to go back to Canada right away.
Right.
So then the next thing I did is I went over to EPH,
Yes.
Evangel Publishing House.
Yes.
Where I used to go for devotions every morning at 8 o'clock. And I had lots of friends there, and I had an office there.
Okay.
So after devotions were over, I said to them, does anybody know anybody who can drive a car? I need to get a driver. I've been given permission to get a driver. And my friend Betty said, yeah, I do. I know somebody who's a truck driver, and he just lost his job. And he's got a good license. So why don't we get him down here and we can talk? So she sent a message up. He came down the 6 hours on the bus
Okay.
to Nairobi.
Wow.
And we talked. He found himself a place to stay. And the first thing I did, I bought him a cell phone.
Okay.
Because I now had a cell phone. Ken had told everybody, go get yourself cell phones, because they saw it's not safe to be around Nairobi without a cell phone to call for help if you need to call.
Yes.
So I had a cell phone, and I got him a cell phone. So we arranged that anytime I needed his services, he would just come up, take the car, and take me wherever I wanted to go, to any of the churches. But what I also discovered was that he was a preacher. He liked to preach. And in Kenya, you don't just have one preacher, you might have 3 preachers.
Yes.
So he always got a chance to speak, and he loved it. And he knew everybody. He knew all the people of that group.
Right.
Because I think I explained to some other people that the reason there were so many little churches like this in Nairobi was because when people were up country and they got a job in Nairobi, then they would look for a church. If they couldn't find a church, they started one.
Right. Oh,
so the
boy.
churches got started. There were lots and lots of churches to go to.
Right.
And now I had Wycliffe. I could just go to a church every Sunday if I wanted and see if I could get people to sign up. I think by the time I finished, I had about 500 students on the list.
Wow.
And it was very exciting. Now, you asked earlier on, when did I go back to Canada?
Right, after that, yes.
Yeah. I think I worked with about 5 years with Wycliffe. I can't remember the dates exactly.
Okay.
But I went back to Canada in 2006.
Okay.
And this is when I met up with Peter Warkentin.
Yes.
And so we had been friends before. We had met in Kenya, as I told you. And so, unfortunately, Evelyn died very soon after. In 2006,
Okay.
she died.
Okay.
So then there was Peter and me.
Okay.
And he often took me to the dentist or wherever I had to go. He
You had
was
another
very
driver.
kind.
You had another driver.
I had another driver. That's a good way to say it.
And it worked at more of a deal than driver eventually.
Well, so it didn't
Yes.
take long. Love blossomed, and we got married.
Wonderful.
In 2007.
So I don't want to end the story there, but I think we're going to have to almost give me one more detail or whatever else you'd like to say, but then we're going to have to hear that another time because I think our time is coming.
I just want to say
please
one
do.
thing.
Yes.
Peter died
Yes.
in September 5,
2021.
2001. 2021.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
What a wonderful man of God he was. You were blessed to have two wonderful husbands who served the Lord faithfully. And, it's remarkable. And he had quite a legacy as well, didn't he, of missions, a heart for missions. He
did.
served, yes. The Lord blessed you. The Lord blessed you, Lillian. Had and you still have a purposeful life. You're still impacting people's lives today, as you did for all those years on the field. Wonderful.
Can I just say one thing?
Please do, yes.
God can take our mistakes and turn them into blessings
Yes.
that we would never have thought of.
Yes, that's right. Amen. Amen. Well, Lillian, I'm excited. I've kind of got goosebumps listening, and I want to hear more, and we'll have to hear back from you again. Thank you so much for joining us on Senior Flicks, and thank you for tuning in today as well. This has been an episode of Marvel Stories, and I know Lillian could keep us just tuned in for another hour if we let her, but we'll get her another time. God bless you, friends. Thanks for coming, and Lillian, thank you for coming too.
Thank you.